So I had all these odd shaped offcuts from the double cat tree, and I wasn't really sure what to do with them. Can't really build furniture out of them, so I was kind of just looking at them for a while, trying to come up with something. And then I started thinking about utensils, and I started thinking about wooden spoons, and in this case, ladle, and a few other things. I thought it might be a good opportunity to try my hand at a bit of carving, something that I really have no experience with. So I started to kind of find shapes within these weird offcuts just to see what I could do with them. Definitely not a project that I had really planned out beforehand. I was essentially just looking at each piece of wood and trying to determine whether there was anything usable inside of the piece itself. At first, I started to use the carving knife, a sloyd knife and a hook knife, to try and do some basic carving with it. But this is really kiln dried walnut, and there's not really much you can do with a carving knife on wood that's this hard. Well, at least there's not much that I can do with carving knives on wood that's this hard. I think certainly for the short term, my carving should be limited to green wood rather than hardwoods, dried hardwoods. As far as the design goes, I was really thinking about just basic kitchen utensils. So spoons that I would use for cooking. I wasn't thinking about presentation spoons or, anything fancier than that. Really utilitarian. I do a lot of cooking myself, so I was just kind of making what I thought would be a good size, a good shape, whatever I could find within the blocks of wood themselves that would be useful to me while I'm cooking. So what I'm intending to end up with is something that is really clean and simple. Just something that you would find and not think about in a kitchen, that it would just work and wouldn't feel too fancy, too overworked. I'm not going to be carving any, animals or finials on these spoons. Pretty straightforward things. I'm sure the way that I'm going about making all of these is probably the hardest way to do any of this, but like I said, I'm not a carver. This was really just a kind of distraction while I'm gearing up for the next big build, and just a simple use of materials that otherwise would not really have a purpose. It's kind of hard to do something with those strange circular pieces of walnut. I'm making a letter opener here, and at first I decided to design it more like a steak knife, I guess. But I quickly realized that that wasn't the shape that I really wanted. I think once I saw it kind of take form in front of me, it seemed more like a steak knife and not like a letter opener. So I essentially made the curve the same on both sides and, reshaped it and was much happier with it. In this whole process, I made several spoons. I made a ladle, a letter opener. I think I made a little spatula. just trying to find things that matched the offcut pieces. And that's the nice thing about this project, is that you can make useful things, really utilitarian everyday things, out of these weird, odd pieces of wood that would otherwise get tossed or just stored in a pile somewhere and never do anything with them, which is something I'm pretty famous for. I have piles of wood stored in boxes that I'm pretty sure I will never do anything with, but I think every woodworker has a few of those boxes at least. But I guess that's where, most cutting boards come from. Unfortunately, with the really weird little shapes, you can't do anything like that. You don't even get long strips out of them. So it's nice to find objects and shapes within them that you can do something with. At the end of the day, I didn't end up using all of the wood, not even half of the wood. And I made plenty of utensils for me to use in the kitchen. And I'm happy with the way they turned out, though I'm sure that it was a pretty inefficient build and took me, I'm sure, dramatically longer than a lot of people would have taken to carve a few spoons and a ladle. Well, thanks for taking the time to watch all the way through to the end. And go ahead and like and subscribe if you're so inclined. Otherwise, just have a great day. Cheers.